All right, what is up guys? Coach Joe at the Lion's Den, and we're doing some whiteboard talk covering a crazy topic on tips for getting huge. And I only have one. I'm gonna put it on the board and let's go. Take lots of drugs. That's it, cool. All right guys, see you later. I'm kidding. I just want to let the YouTube trolls have some fun with that one. All right, kids, we're back in session. All right, guys, but in all seriousness, okay, I want to put this video together, keep it right to the point on how I can help you guys build muscle, okay? And I've been doing this for a long time. I've gone through many different physique changes over the last couple years, but the main premise has always been to keep adding muscle, all right? I've made some mistakes as well, which we'll cover in this video, but we're gonna get right to it, guys, okay? So sound principles to help you guys put on muscle. And first one has to do with nutrition, okay? Nutrition is gonna be a very big part of this. I would say almost all of it, but tracking your food is gonna be the first tip off the bat that we got to address. Okay, a lot of people want to get big, and then the same thing applies for losing weight, but since we're talking about mass, you need to know how many calories you eat on a daily basis. Okay, so one of the simplest things you can do is track those calories, and there's tons of fitness trackers out there that you can use. They're free, some are paid for, but if it's free, you might as well use it. I love having my clients and myself use MyFitnessPal. The other one, if you want to pay for it, is the RP Diet app, which I am a sponsored athlete by them, and it takes all the thinking out of this, but that's not the point. The point is that you need to have some sort of way to track those calories on a weekly basis, okay? And once we have those calories, okay, say you track for the day, maybe you track your entire week, you see where the average is. What we want to do from there is add calories, because we're trying to put on weight. The calories that we're tracking have just been to maintain the weight that we're at. So we want to add calories. Now, I always like to just add 500 calories, okay? And this is found out through experimentation of, I did a lot of massing phases where I added too many calories and ended up putting on a lot of fat, all right? So there's other variables involved with this, but I think 500 is just a little bit of a bump. You're not gonna notice these crazy weight gains, okay? Maybe it's gonna be half a pound, quarter of a pound per week, but you have to remember these things compound over time, and you want your body to also adjust to what you're doing, okay? So if we went from eating 2,000 calories a day and then just started slamming, 4,000 or 5,000 calories, you're gonna run into some issues with how you feel, your digestive system, and it's probably not gonna be the best overall physique that you're looking for, okay? So I'm a big fan of doing things right, doing them properly, and focusing on the long-term progress. So I think 500 calories is a great number for you guys to increase those calories by. So say if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, just bump that up to 2,500 calories per day and track that for the next 1 to 2 weeks. See what's happening with your weight, your physique, and then adjust from there. But this can't happen unless we know how many calories that we're at each day. So tip number one, guys, track those calories, use some sort of tracker, and then add 500 calories to whatever your base daily caloric intake is. All right, my friends, tip number two, staying within that nutritional spectrum, is going to be eat more protein. All the clients that I have dealt with, even myself when I got into this, was severely under intaking the amount of protein that I needed to be consuming to put on muscle and size, okay? Yes, other macros are important and we want to consume other macros, but protein is a big one that stands out, okay? Protein is what builds muscle. All right, so we want to make sure that we are getting at least 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of our body weight. Now, when you are massing, typically you can get away with that 0.8. However, when you're cutting, I would say we want to get on that higher end to maintain as much muscle as possible. But on the topic of massing, I like to be in that 0.8 to 1.2 grams. Typically for me, a very easy rule of thumb is just 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if I'm 270 pounds, I'm getting in 270 grams of protein. And when I'm taking in calories, obviously I'm massing. If I go over that in protein intake, I'm completely fine with that because I want to get as much protein as possible to get as jacked as possible. So tip number two, eat more protein. Once you guys are tracking from tip number one, you're probably gonna find that your protein's pretty low, okay? So just simply changing that protein intake, gonna get those calories up and help you have a better chance of building muscle. All right, guys, tip number three, still on the nutrition spectrum, is gonna be liquid calories, okay? So from doing a couple massing phases, I've done some that have gone way better than others. And when I did one, long story short, is I was trying to take in tons of physical food, okay, multiple meals, 5-6 meals a day. And what I found is that it worked well for a little bit, but then honestly, it just got very challenging. It was mentally draining. It was physically draining. I'm just sitting there trying to stuff food, force feed, and it became miserable. And I also developed a kind of weird relationship with food where I just didn't want to eat because I was just exhausted and it kind of burnt me out. So in this massing phase, one of the biggest things that has saved just my overall motivation to mass and the quality of the mass has been liquid calories, all right? So if we have, 4 or 5 meals and it's easy for you to get those down, that's awesome. But if you're having some issues, guys, shakes are just a fantastic alternative. And what I mean by that is, make your protein shake, or literally you can put everything in there, blend it up so that it goes down so much easier than having to have a physical food to eat. Now, I know this sounds really gross too, but there's guys like Derek Poundstone and some other people on the internet who have actually done chicken shakes before. I would say probably don't knock it till you try it. That's a very, total end of the spectrum thing, but it's way easier than taking down 2 whole chicken breasts on top of your rice, your veggies. When anything is blended or mixed together and it's in liquid form, it's just way easier to consume. And it's a little bit easier on the digestive system as well. So for me, like even if it's just a basic protein shake, or you just at the end of the night, maybe you do whatever you want to throw in there to give you that extra amount of calories that you need to be massing, I would highly recommend that just from personal experience. The other thing that's nice is some sort of juice or fruit juice, because you can get those carbohydrates, you can get those calories in. So if you want to do just adding simply some more calories through juice with a couple of your meals or your breakfast, etc., it can gain a good amount of calories throughout the day. So you may be able to keep everything the same, but just add in a couple glasses of orange juice or apple juice, cranberry juice, whatever you like that has calories and also does have some nutritional value to it. You can throw that in. This is a big one for me. I'm super weird and I really didn't drink milk, almost my entire life. I actually drank a lot of, I think I drank milk as a kid, like a little kid, because I definitely remember it was cereal. But then at some point we switched over to more drinking almond milk. I think I did go through a little bit of soy milk at some point. So hence why I'm probably half a female. My estrogen levels are through the roof. Kidding. But recently I have been drinking a ton of milk. Okay, and it's worked well for my digestive system, but instead of doing a gallon of milk a day, I basically do, let's just say 8 ounces of milk for a couple meals throughout the day. So that's just gonna add up and give me those extra calories. It's heavily dense in protein, as well as having a little bit of carbohydrates and some fat in there. So just a nice alternative and a great substance that you can be adding to your massing phases. Last one is if you're having meals and you're trying to get some extra calories in, specifically fats, because fats are gonna be most dense in calories, just putting some oil or olive oil on top of your veggies or your meal can really go a long way for not that much of how much oil you'd actually have to put on there in terms of the calories that you would gain. So just some food for thought when you're massing, of just some things you can help better your mass. All right, guys, switching gears, talking a little bit more about programming and less about nutrition. For tip number 4 is if you want to get massive, you got to program to get massive. And what I mean by that is make sure that your program matches your goals. So for example, if you're trying to put on mass size, get big, look big, feel big and strong, you probably don't want to have a similar program to someone who's doing an Ironman or a marathon or a triathlon. Or something that's just burning tons and tons of calories and not having a ton of resistance training or barbell training, using weights, etc. Totally cool if that's your thing, but when you're trying to get massive, we want to make sure that it follows suit with the training program that we're running. Okay, pretty common sense, but yet again, I see people who are trying to get massive and they're trying to do a million different things. Okay, they're burning tons of calories and they're not specifically focused on what they're trying to get better at or the results they're looking for. So like I said, big compound movements, strength-based programs are going to be king when it comes to putting on mass and size. I love big compound movements. You guys have been following the channel for a long time. There's a reason I do those big compound movements, and I am a strength sport athlete, okay? It goes hand in hand. Not to say that you can't do more bodybuilding or higher volume, which I have right here, because if you do add in some bodybuilding, some higher volume stuff, that's going to definitely help put on size and make you bigger, okay? But the main point too, following back to the other tips, is you gotta make sure that you have the calories to do that. So I kind of have over here, it says less movement. What I mean by that, if the goal is to get massive, okay, right, and we're training really hard, and you're super maybe active outside, and you're burning calories elsewhere, it may be time for you to maybe relax a little bit and dial it back. So yes, focus on your training, your nutrition, but we don't wanna keep burning more and more calories doing other things, playing pickup basketball, playing flag football, or you're involved with some intramural leagues. Maybe you're walking your dog or riding your bike all the time. Now we're just taking away calories, and we're gonna have to eat even more to get there, okay? So look at your lifestyle and your programming, and it should match up with the goal that you have for the big picture, okay? The other thing is finding a good split. So more often than not, okay, if you've been training, there's, let's just say, been some evidence that training frequency above 1 time per week per muscle group is going to be great. So someone who is a huge fan of higher frequency, I would definitely say that if you can train something more than 1 time per week, do it, okay? If you train legs on Monday and by Wednesday or Thursday they're feeling recovered and ready to go, you should hit legs again, because you don't want to miss out on that opportunity to cause an adaptation for growth, to get more massive, get more jacked, etc. So if you're doing that bro split, you're not getting very good results, your nutrition's in check, look at your programming, okay? Can you increase the frequency to more than 1 time per week for those body parts or those lifts, etc. And try that and see how that works for you. So that's just a quick couple little tidbits on programming to match with your massing phase. All right, guys, tip number 5. This is the last little bit of tidbits that we're gonna sprinkle on top of this mass cake that we've been throwing in the Gains kitchen now during this video, okay? And this is gonna be called come to terms with gaining fat, all right? Gaining fat. We don't wanna get fat, which sometimes people do because they take massing too extreme, but we just wanna be okay with gaining some fat. So if we make gains, right, say we put on 12 pounds, say 5 to 7 pounds that is muscle, the remainder is fat, that's okay, because we have to think about long-term progress here. And when we do cut, or when we are training, okay, we have put on more size, more mass, more strength, more muscle, and not get so caught up in the fact that, yeah, we put on some weight, maybe our stomach doesn't look as good as it did, which there's a whole other thing. Probably time your massing seasonally, okay? So if you're gonna be at the beach all the time, it's probably maybe a little bit better to do a cut during that time versus a mass. That's up to you to figure out. That's the way I look at things. But when you are, gaining that fat, it's okay. It's part of the process. It's not gonna be that way for forever, hopefully, but it's just gonna be what needs to happen when we are massing. Secondly, totally serious, pooping and peeing more, okay? So if we're eating more food and we're consuming more liquid, we are going to be going to the bathroom more. And in the beginning, you're kind of like, damn, I only took a morning poo 1 time a day, maybe. Now it's up to 2, 3 times a day. Well, yeah, it's because we have more physical mass in our stomach that needs to break down, so we're gonna be going to the bathroom a little bit more. So maybe that affects your schedule, your work schedule, maybe it affects your life, I don't know, but consider the facts and be okay with it, all right? It's okay to take a healthy dump more than 1 time per day, all right? So from there on, we have other areas taking a small hit. And what I mean by that is when I was doing this a couple years ago, I was trying to put on size, but I was so consumed with making sure that I kept my cardio in peak shape. And what I realized is, kind of like I said earlier, is I was burning a lot of extra calories trying to keep up with that conditioning. And then I kept trying to eat more, but my weight really wasn't changing much. So now when I mass, I have to hold myself back a little bit, with the conditioning maybe, knowing that I'm trying to focus on putting on quality size and mass and getting better with that. And maybe my conditioning does take a little bit of a hit. That's okay, so just be aware that some other areas may take a hit, but you have to focus on what's the main priority for you during this mass or this phase that you're putting yourself through, okay? So just be aware that it's okay. They may take a small hit, not a big deal. You'll be able to continually make different gains in different avenues after you're done your mass. And the last one is just long-term gain, guys. Like, you're in this for the long haul. So there's no reason to rush it. There's no reason to add in thousands of extra calories right off the bat. Start marginally, start like with little baby steps, okay? Creating little habit changes, behavioral changes, nutritional changes, training changes that are going to add up to the big picture over time, right? If you do that, you're gonna find that your mass phases, or whatever other phases you're doing, are gonna just look and feel a lot better than if you rushed into things, okay? You took these drastic changes. So just focus on the long-term game, when I think for a lot of us, it's to be healthy, okay? You know, I deal with a small percentage of athletes who all they care about is, you know, world records or being world's strongest this or world's best that, and that's a different mindset. But for most of you guys watching this channel, I want you guys to be healthy all the way, you know, to your deathbed, okay? Or as healthy as you can be. So think about how can we do this in the best way to still get the goals that we want, with also preserving our health and our body as best as possible. So I'm a big fan of just small little tweaks over time. Is going to be way more in favor than quick and drastic, okay? Easy come, easy go, right? High risk, high reward, but in the sense of the health game and the gains that we're trying to make, just nice and steady, guys. All right, so that's pretty much my entire video, guys, on massing. Just some general tips, things for you guys to think about. Trying to get out more videos pretty frequently, so we're gonna do some more whiteboard talks. So